Hello, everyone. As Antonia mentioned, I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager at Untitled Capital, which is a venture capital fund that is fintech focused, and we invest in fintech startups based in early stage fintech startups based in Canada and the United States. So I just wanted to start this panel by just kind of reflecting on what we've been experiencing this past year. So on one hand, the COVID-19 pandemic has reaffirmed even more extensively how technology is key in our life, reshaping the world we live in. The impact was felt in the financial services industry with rapid digital transformation, and EY reported a 70% rise in the use of fintech apps in Europe. And on the other hand, COVID-19 has been a major challenge for gender equality. The pandemic has exacerbated existing inequalities between women and men in almost all areas of life, both in Europe and abroad. And the EU 2021 report on gender equality that just came out on Friday highlighted that the impact of the pandemic's first wave on the labor market was more significant for women than for men. Women obviously overrepresentation in lower paid sectors and occupations such as hospitality, retail, or personal services make them particularly vulnerable in the labor markets stuck by the COVID-19 crisis. And in contrast, sectors that benefited from the greater demand for digital services like financial services and fintech, so increase in employment rates. So the challenges we've been experiencing this past year and their ramifications are an opportunity to push harder and faster for change, and in our case, push harder to close the digital gender gap, especially when it comes to the digital jobs market. It is essential to encourage more women to pursue and thrive in STEM occupations, in fintech, in leadership roles, and to support and promote female entrepreneurship. And networks and sector role models can be a driving force in professional development, boost opportunities for mentorship and exchange of good practices, and improve individuals' expectation of success in any sector. And this is why I'm very excited about events like this, where we have the opportunity to showcase incredible female leaders in fintech, and in doing so, make our field more attractive for women and motivate, hopefully motivate transition to different careers in the industry or entrepreneurship. So let's start this panel, and I would just like to invite our esteemed panelists to briefly introduce themselves and tell us how they fit into the industry. So maybe we can start with Dushika. Oh, with Dushika, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Giselle. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me to participate in Cyprus FinTech Summit. I'm extremely excited. And I have to say that Amani prepared us, to go very strong into this session. So thank you as well. So I would like to say that my name is Dušica Lukač. I'm a partner and managing director of DL Capital Partners. I'm coming from financial services industry, where I grew up to C-level and started my career structured finance, M&A, and then started running the banks, buying banks, closing banks, the whole spectrum of services. The last 5 years, I've decided to focus on a new trend, which I've noticed is going to take over the financial services, and this is the fintechs. So I also started some of my own companies, particularly in digital asset space. I also invested in AI-driven solution for wealth management, a lot of different things. But what we focus most, and where we believe, where we add a lot of value, we actually do a very focused transaction advisory and strategic preparation for the transaction itself, and also post-transaction. And that is why we also have been looking into a little bit later stages or even preparation towards the going public. And yeah, so this is what we do the best. So thank you. I will just leave the space for others to introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you very much, Dushika. So, Katerina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to celebrate this day with all of you amazing women and men. And happy International Women's Day from Geneva. My name is Katerina Konstantinidi, and I'm a professional in the banking industry for more than 20 years, having worked for more than 4 international banks in various roles, from corporate banking to wealth management to brokerage. also through my fintech experience at Saxo Bank in Copenhagen, Denmark, and Limassol. And I'm very happy to share my personal experience with all of you here today.
Thank you. Yael?
Hi, everybody. I'm Yael Tamar, CEO and co-founder of SolidBlock. We tokenize real estate, creating digital securities backed by property. I am speaking to you from Tel Aviv, Israel, and I'm very excited to be here. I have to say that I was born in the Soviet Union, which actually was kind of a gender-neutral society where, in the professional realm at least, there was a lot of equality on the surface. You know, I lived in the US, I lived in Israel. There, you know, it seems to be that each country, each location has its own issues. And I'm really happy that we're here on this international panel to discuss ways we can grow stronger and basically help each other get to the top of these industries.
Thank you, Yael. Natalie?
Hello, ladies, and the rest of our audience. First of all, that's a tough act to follow, all of these very successful, very experienced ladies on the panel with me. My name's Natalie. I lived and worked in both Cyprus and the UK, specifically London. I'm originally Cypriot South African. In London, I started my career as an HR consultant, specifically in the financial services industry. So I worked with some of the biggest investment banks, hedge funds, all the big names that you can possibly think of. I've worked with them, and that's pretty much where I started my career before coming to Cyprus and working in in-house HR, specifically talent acquisition, and in the technology sector primarily. So started in financial services, moved to technology, and I currently work in fintech, basically combining it all together. My experience is mostly focused in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, having worked with and employed and supported on an HR side of things, employees across the region. I'm now also working quite extensively with Asia on a global role, actually, so not just Asia. And that's where I come from, basically combining the fintech space, but also from an HR side. I'd like to think that where I can add some value in this panel is being able to share some of my experience working with some amazing women in this sector, and also identifying some of the problems that women in fintech do face.
Thank you very much. Hi, Eva. Introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you. I want to thank you, Giselle, and I want to also thank, of course, Panis Pieri for inviting me to this panel. And I'm very happy that I am with such extraordinary women discussing on the future of fintech, because it is, of course, not a woman's world yet. But the women that are there, they are actually amazing, and they have already succeeded great things. I have been working on this agenda as a member of the European Parliament. Initially from Greece and in the Social Democrat Party. I focused a lot on fintech because after the economic crisis that we faced in my country and in Europe in general, I was trying to find the solutions for the problems that we couldn't solve without austerity measures. So I realized that there is a huge opportunity in blockchain, artificial intelligence, to reduce the costs, to create trust, remove the intermediation, and make sure that people's deposits and savings are safe from the full central control of the banks, and they will have alternatives, options. I don't talk about like switching completely, but definitely have options, because the traditional system seems to have in a lot of ways failed to protect at least people in extreme circumstances, of course. And I have been working also on the Invest EU. This is a budget where we are trying to make sure that we will have more growth in Europe and cross-border projects. And recently, under the for the establishment of a European digital single market, we have managed to allocate, and I was the rapporteur for that file too, 20% for the next generation EU budget to the digital transformation of Europe's industry and society. And of course, we have taking diversity into account for funding, as it's a big challenge, but still we need definitely to make sure that we will support women's initiatives to enter the finance sector, because we see just 8% of women fund managers for VCs, and these numbers are really slow and low, because it's a man's world, and it's of course every decision that's taken there, it's more difficult to include diversity. So we have really to fight in a political level, and we have to be able to support women that they are prepared to enter this market. So this is, I would say, the beginning of my introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eva. So I just wanted to start the panel by just maybe tackling the big picture. And Eva, you just kind of went over a little bit of what what the EU has been doing. But I just wanted to maybe see if you could elaborate a little bit more on the different efforts that are being made. You mentioned in terms of diversity, but what about the pipeline issue and education, and what you believe is necessary in the new and emerging technology fields like fintech and blockchain to enable women to access equal opportunities to pursue and thrive in those fields?
For anybody, or are you asking specifically?
Well, I'll just start with Eva, and then everyone else can comment.
Okay. I thought so, because a bit of like, I understand an institutional actually response needed. So we have been preparing some initiatives to make sure we will help women to enter this field. Let's take under consideration that the first time since 2019 we took over the new mandate of the European Parliament and Commission, that we have a woman as a president, and we have half vice presidents to be women in our party, and also in the Parliament and the Commission. So I would say it's very important, because this showed already that we are taking stronger action. And in the same time, we had an EIB decision presentation of how we can make sure to fund and achieve better funding for women. It was a report that was prepared. Its title is Funding Women Entrepreneurs: How to Empower Growth. And we made this we understood what happens and why they have trouble to enter the finance sector, especially, and to get funding. And we are preparing also a plan to support them even more. So women-led startups, they are not funded the same as men. Maybe, as I said before, only a small portion. And this is not just because we have lack of female representation among founders and investors, but there is also gender bias and risk aversion. So these are some of the conclusions that you would find on this report. It was June 2020 by EIB and Innovation Finance Advisory for the Commission. And despite the structural disparities we have, we see that at least there is improvement. So we don't have, of course, there is no way to go even worse than what we are now. So yes, there is an improvement, but it's also important to highlight that. So we do have differences. And across Europe, this report observes a relative lack of female to male entrepreneurs. Women represent roughly 52% of the population, but they are 34% of the self-employed and 30% of startup entrepreneurs. So I think these are also very interesting numbers. And then women, and I don't talk about the high level and high positions. I talk only about just participating in this field. And moreover, women, they are underrepresented in decision-making roles at venture capital firms. So also it seems there is a conclusion there that says that investment firms with women partners are twice as likely to invest in women-led enterprises and 3 times as likely to invest in enterprises with women CEOs. So you understand that if we start like helping each other, then things will start accelerating, and we can manage to move much faster. So we have to to add all these pieces together in order to see growth and progress there. So EU has tried to identify the obstacles, and we also had, you mentioned that before, we also have tried to include extra lessons for women to acquire digital skills, because this is really important. And it's not the full competency of Europe to do so, to change the educational systems of the member states, but definitely to offer this option. So, for example, we did in Greece, 700 girls for 3 days. They were learning coding. They were around, I think, 16 years old. And I would say, but I don't have like the real numbers, but I would say when I heard them, around 75 to 80%, they wanted to continue learning coding, and they saw the opportunities they had, and they were super excited that they entered this field that seemed to be occupied by mainly men. So lack of access to information, training, funding, mentors, and support networks, and also, of course, to balance the multiple roles that the women have, are the reasons why we are left behind. I do believe that the next report will have even more improved numbers because of the pandemic as a catalyst. We realized that we can achieve having all these roles together, and we don't have to leave behind the family. We can try to do both. Nobody would ask a man how they can manage to balance their families and their job, but I'm getting this question every time. So I think with the pandemic, since we have teleworking, teleeducation possible, and we are all more familiar, I believe that the numbers will be really improved, and women will have at least this choice to be able to do both in an easier way. I wouldn't be able to stay in Greece if we didn't have the pandemic, because there was no televoting. So I had to be constantly every week back to Brussels. This would be really helpful. So let's see what's happening next year. And there are more things that they can add. I mean, there are more tools that we have that women don't know of, that Europe has established, platforms for women, for mentoring, for access to funding, for support, and for ambassadors for entrepreneurship. So several things that we've been doing, and unfortunately, we have not maybe properly reached out to them. So forums like yours really play a significant role for them to see what is out there and to be able to connect also with women that can support them. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And I think that you kind of went over the 3 kind of major things that we tend to talk about when we're talking about women in general in tech or in the workplace, whether we're talking about the pipeline issue, whether it's education, career building, and you mentioned funding for entrepreneurs, or even emerging fund managers, having more women there, or the social and cultural kind of norms that we tend to see that are, and biases that are affecting us. So I just kind of wanted to start maybe on the pipeline issue, and my question is directly to Katerina. You have more than 20 years of experience in the European banking industry, and you've had a really impressive career. And I just wanted to know what has made you succeed along the way, and how should women kind of build a career in the banking industry position themselves for success?
Thank you, Giselle. And really, I will speak about my personal experience and hope to inspire other women in this forum. And I will speak from my heart. I've been always fascinated by how the financial markets are working. And I literally was brought up into banks, started my career in a Greek bank as an apprentice when I was 18 years old at an entry level. But during my rotation, I tried to get the utmost out of it, to understand what I wanted to do and how to get it, how to progress in my career. I changed various roles in the same bank. And when I felt I was ready, I took my first international assignment, but being still in Greece, in an international bank. After several years of service and changing from corporate to private to custody to trading to wealth management, working with institutional and retail clients, and already having my daughter, and whatever this means, all the challenges that I faced, I took the decision to start my my journey in other European jurisdictions. In the last 12 years, I changed 3 countries for the work, and I never regret it. So I think what worked for me, at least, it was something that was coming from inside, my innate need to progress and get more experiences outside of my comfort zone. And I'm telling you, this hasn't stopped, and I don't think if it's gonna stop ever. Now, what made me successful professional, whatever this means for each one of us, throughout these years? Definitely, first thing you need to be equipped is ability to adapt to people, to other cultures, to other countries, and to organizations. But very important, what helped me is to be resilient. I truly believe that resilience is key, as risk management is more important than short-lived results, and this applies to both personal and professional lives. But also being, of course, detail-oriented, I truly believe that we need to be effective listeners. We need to ask the right questions. We need to ask for mentoring. We need to ask other people how they became successful and learn from the best practices out of them and the people around you. Also, what I also believe very much is to ask for feedback. Honest feedback, no matter how harsh this can be, it's really a gift that someone can give to you. And you need to work on the weak points. This is what I'm always doing, and I'm always asking for feedback. Also, speak up. You don't need to do and know everything on your own. Ask for help. Ask for other people's, your team members' opinion and suggestions. And you will be amazed, first of all, how much they want to contribute. And be sure that if your people contribute and suggest to ideas or projects, everybody will be committed. And last but not least, stay focused. Sometimes we might not have the job of our dreams and we might not be happy. Don't compromise. Chase your dreams. Remember to focus and develop your skills, what is needed in order to be successful. You don't need to get all bachelors or masters from the beginning of the careers, and now I'm addressing myself to the young professionals entering the professional life. Put your hands into the job and then fine tune, see what you need and add it. This is even more important to the current environment that we need to adapt to from before Corona to post-Corona, to digital, to artificial intelligence, to all these things. It will never be enough to have one bachelor or a master or an MBA. Keep on developing your skills and don't give up. If you don't give up, you just cannot fail.
Thank you so much. Great answer. I just want to kind of go back to the skills aspect and the education aspect. Obviously, Natalie, the pipeline issue and gender disparity in STEM education is kind of one of the first challenges that is brought up when we're talking about diversity in technology. And as a seasoned HR professional, I just wanted to know if you could elaborate on the nuances that we may take into account when talent is in question and if you want to tackle that issue.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, I think we have a pipeline issue. I definitely do. I've been actually looking for statistics in preparation for this panel. And what I found actually matches my personal experience of it. There's about a 30% versus 70% participation of women in STEM. Okay, this is a very, very general statistic. It came out from a study last year from the World Economic Forum. I looked for numbers in FinTech, and the fact that I couldn't find any, I think is quite telling, okay? So firstly, we need to acknowledge that there really is an issue here, and it's not a blaming game. It's not about trying to place blame on a specific culture. It's just the way that things are, okay? Doesn't mean they need to stay that way. And I think all of us have experienced progress, thankfully, in the right direction. But there is an initial problem. And there are ways in which it can be combated, and I've seen it. I think with very practical ways, like what Eva mentioned. There is an international organization called Girls School Code. It's active in many, many countries, and it's a non-for-profit. It invests a lot in making women a lot more tech savvy than traditionally they are. There is a lot of reasons why women don't select STEM, and it's gender stereotyping, I would say. So even in school, I took biology at the A level, and I was the only woman who finished with a biology A level in my year. Everybody else in my class were men, right? So I do think there is a pipeline issue, but it is heading in the right direction. I think focus more on practical application of STEM skills over maybe degrees, because the whole industry, the whole world is moving away from the stereotypical academic backgrounds and much more into evidence-based hires. So you have things like online testing or technical interviews that are much more focused than what's on the CV. Okay, so I think that's quite important. And when it comes to female representation in the workplace, what I find is that the lower levels, we're now getting where we should be. So in my company, I work for a company called FX Primus. It's international. It's a very established company in the fintech sector. And I would say that we have about 50% participation in terms of our employees, okay? So we have 50% women, 50% men. However, look at the management level. Look at the heads of departments from middle management and above, and what you'll find is that we're a lot more reflective of that initial number that I mentioned, so the 30–70%. We're definitely moving in the right direction, but I would definitely say that we are one of many, all right? So having women who support each other is a really big key in the way forward. So celebrating women in a similar way like this panel or this event even is really important to show the ladies who are just starting out or who are at an earlier part in their career that it is possible. But also I heard a great saying many years ago, and it stuck with me. Men see other men as allies, and women see other women as competition. And I really hope that whoever came up with that saying is wrong, because personally, I try very hard to be the opposite of that, right? To support other women in my field or otherwise. By the way, my degree is actually very much quantitative. I have a degree in operational research. I just happened to choose HR because it was something I fell in love with. But throughout my career, I've been in environments where they were very stereotypically male. So being able to help other women, not because they're women, but because we naturally start off a little bit disadvantaged. So being able to mentor other women in my field or in general in STEM sectors, in the fintech field, I think that's really key. And it's going to create the managers, the heads of departments, the successes of the future. And of course, I'm talking about a corporate setting, but not to ignore the entrepreneurial side of things, because a lot of the entrepreneurs of tomorrow would be employees of today in a similar company, right? That's where they will get their ideas. That's where they will get their contacts. So it's important to foster that environment in order to see women succeed. So the pipeline is very much at the entry level, but also at the more senior level. So I hope that answers the question.
No, that's great. That was was very insightful. You ended with the entrepreneurial side of things, and I just wanted to tap into that with VIL and just kind of ask her what her experience was as a female founder in the blockchain industry, which is a space that is considered to be even more male-dominated sector that in the tech space in general. And I just want to know if there's something that you had known as a female founder at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey.
So thanks for that question, Giselle. In general, in my career, in my corporate career, I never felt necessarily the level of discrimination that everybody describes. Not that I wasn't there, but you know, in finance, not entrepreneurial finance, but in general in finance, companies like Ernst & Young and a few financial firms, I would say, you know, they were fairly equal in terms of women in management, in terms of women sharing the work. So, you know, that part, I obviously, I'm not aware of anybody's salaries, and I know the industry statistics show that women's salaries are much lower, and I can see that, you know, there's different things, different factors that it's attributed to. Some is women taking lower, you know, salary cut to be more flexible with childcare. You know, some is not necessarily negotiating or talking about salaries. So these things are slowly changing. So that's in the corporate world. When I went in the entrepreneurial route, first in fintech and later in blockchain, I could see that many women would start businesses and then drop out of the game. In fact, statistically, we know that while the number of female entrepreneurs increases every year in the beginning, right? Women that create startups, right? I saw some statistics published by Deloitte that while women founded startups grew at a compound annual growth rate of 59%, right? Funding for men grew, but funding for women didn't, right? So there might be a lot of new women creating startups, but then they stop at a certain point because they're not being funded. Now, why are women entrepreneurs not being funded? Is it discrimination, or is it just simply there's not enough women up on top? Right? There's not enough women VCs, there's not enough women private equity fund managers, right? And is it necessarily, you know, I'm not sure it's discrimination. It might be just the fact that most of these funding deals are created via personal connections, right? There's nothing like getting a personal email recommending a certain founder, right? And a few times, you know, every time in my career when somebody's saying, can you introduce me to so-and-so, you know, a lot of times I will tell them, well, I don't know them very well, right? I don't know them very well. And it's true, I do know, I do know a lot of VCs and VC partners, and when I know them, I obviously facilitate this introduction. When I don't know them, I say, you know, I'm connected to them on LinkedIn, but I'm not friends with them, so it's not going to help you if I email them. So I think that's what happens a lot, right? It's just a natural thing that we trust more people that are a part of our circle, and we're just not in the circle, right? We're not in the circle enough. That's why it's super important for women to be up on top. You know, it might not even be discrimination. It's just the fact that we're just not close to the circle. So in my experience, you know, we did get initial funding from a VC, and I don't know whether mistakenly or subconsciously, or, you know, somehow I always thought that I should have a male co-founder on my team just to kind of up my chances of getting funded, if not necessarily from discrimination point of view, but from the point of view that we're going to have more a wider circle of investors to tap into.
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you mean. And I actually read this report a few weeks ago where it's saying that women who are solo founders or just like a team, a female team of founders were getting considerably less funding than if it was a co-founder that was a woman and male. So I think that your instinct just kind of, you know, told you were right in that perspective. I understand what you mean. And maybe Dushika, you can talk a little bit more about the entrepreneurship and the funding aspect, because I was reading the 2019 Atomico State of the European Tech report, and they said that 92% of the funding invested in European tech companies were went to founding teams that were all men, and that female fintech founders make up only 7% of the global fintech founder community. And women founded fintech startups raise 50% less capital than startups funded only by men. So do you kind of believe that this is just a systemic issue, or do you believe that there is a way that the way that some founders approach the company below fundraising process might be detrimental?
Yeah. I just want to, first of all, I want to thank Yael for introduction, because she touched on a couple of topics that I wanted to talk about. And thank you, Giselle. I would say that there are a couple of things somehow connected and interlinked. First of all, there is a legacy issue. Don't forget that, literally, women in management are super rare. I was trying to find myself some data that are not so commonly found. So I look, for example, the female companies that IPO'd, female-led companies that IPO'd. And I discovered that actually the first one ever was in 1967, and then it took, the second one was in 1999, and then the third one was in 2007, while in 2020, we had 4 companies IPO'd led by female founders. I mean, that is tremendous progress. And I would just say that if you look the legacy, that there's lots of problems there. If you look, for example, at ratios spilling over from the other industries, like top CEOs, Fortune CEOs, for example, only around 5% of women, or S&P 500, around 2%. I mean, that also automatically means that the spillover effect of the top people who are getting out of the big companies and maybe starting the new companies is pretty low. That's another thing. And the third thing is there is a different type of financing out there. And not all financing are same. VC is very unique. VC financing and VC funds are also lacking diversity themselves. That's true. They're very tightly knit community. People do tend to go back to those that they know because they know how it delivers. Also, VC funding is looking a lot, not only about the idea, but about capacity of the team to deliver. So you would not be, I was sitting in private equity funds and we were looking at historical performances. We were looking about a lot of other potential market. There were more people inside. So you were not so much focused about the founding team. While in VC, particularly in the early stages, it really comes down to who leads the company. So I would say that when you put all these things together, you end up really in scarcity of funding for the female-led founders. And I wanted to find, when I was thinking about today's session, I wanted to find something to say, to encourage the female founders out there who are maybe listening today. And I remembered a friend of mine, she's a New York lawyer. She told me once, when you go to the US and when you pitch and when you start talk to, doesn't matter, private equity or VC, go big or go home. And I really want to say, like in VC is banking on unicorns. VC are going out there trying to find something that is going to change the world. And I feel that people who are approaching VC, they should bear that in mind. They should go big or go home. It's literally like that. On the other side, there are unicorns led by female founders. I can say that I've discovered also some of really amazing fintechs. So I would say, for example, Cabbage, Starling Bank, Eventbrite or Canva. I'm not mentioning Bumble because this is last famous example. There are a couple of more preparing. I heard that we can expect some more unicorns coming. There's lots of in life science, in deep science. There's the 4 of them in 2020 are coming from this space. So I would just say that things are looking much better because there is more encouragement out there. And there is also, the world is growing into that direction. I know that Bumble founder, she said, like, misogyny is the smoking of our generation. And I tend to agree, and this is good to have it out there. So yes, I would say that on one side, the focus on VC funding is very much male dominant world. but there is also less of I mean, I don't know, we can also discuss it in the next question, because we mentioned it about the gap in VC industry itself, but this is a spillover effect, because of course the less female founders, they have their how to say, their network is also less diverse, but there are changes. I would say that approximately only 12% of venture capitalists are women. This is the data I found. So 2/3 of firms have no female partners at all out there. I mean, at all, not even junior. So this is something which is to be changed. I believe it is changing. So this is something, as we are talking, is changing now. But I have one fact I'm extremely proud of. 70% of most successful funds, they do have female partners. So there is added value in diversity. And I think that Yael have chosen well to have also male founder to combine the different skill sets, energies, networks. And I think it also works for the investment firms as well. So diversity basically in investment targets starts with the investment firms themselves. And I think that I recently founded, for example, the Berlin Founders Fund. I read the amazing article from Stephanie von Beer. She addressed this topic about International Women's Day, and she proudly stated that her portfolio consists of 47% women-led businesses, and there's also different female partners within the company. And I was extremely proud to read that, because that shows that there is change. Change is happening, and I'm feel that certain biases that will live are going away. I think that these biases go up and down, and I will just say that as curiosity. When I was a teenager in 80s, the coding became kind of, that was early days of coding, and this was not something for boys, because boys wanted to go out. So this was kind of a girls thing. And if you consider that the first code ever was invented by Ada Lovelace, I mean, it started with the girls, then grew up with the boys, and then it's coming back into a diversified form. So I think it's we have to understand that the industry we're talking about is super young. It is changing. It's intersection of extremely special type of industries like financial services and technology, which are male dominant. Financial services changed earlier, and it's a spilling over effect into fintechs as well. Technology is working on it. It's changing, because technology industry is also pretty new. I mean, you have to, I mean, since 2000 we have internet, and so it's not like hundreds of years of technology. We're really talking about some very, very early days. So having said that, I also want to say that in coming days and weeks and months and years, we'll be seeing more and more diversity. But I want to encourage people to think very broad, in broad terms. I want to encourage them to go big. I will just mention, for example, that there are different ways to grow. There is not only one way. Growing from your sales, growing with different types of financing and funding, also growing through the mergers and acquisitions. So when I analyzed recently, for example, Hopin case, because Hopin is like super hot, and people are surprised, how is it possible that company exists this couple of years and suddenly is so huge? I just want to say that the Hopin founders went into it super seriously. They raised the first seed, I think, end of 2019. And then they raised 3 rounds in 2020, despite of the pandemics. Of course, they used the momentum what's happening for them, but and then raised another round now in February. But and the last round is 400 million, so I see round. But why I'm mentioning this, that in the early days, like after they raised seed, they immediately started looking for the companies they can acquire. So at the end, when they were raising, the C round, they already acquired two extremely important companies for them, acquired technology, acquired team, capacities, market, everything. And that's how company can grow and become really big within short period of time. It's not an easy process. It requires a lots of knowledge also to integrate that and to make it big. But I just want to say that there are so many options in the market, and by broadening yourself, your knowledge, your understanding, and more than anything, ambition, that's, you know, like how you can access more and grow fast, and then you become the very hot hopping style. Everyone talks about you, everyone wants to work with you, everyone wants to finance you. So I just wanted to say that to close everything, the VC world does chase unicorns. There are female-led unicorns. There are more and more of them. And there's also other alternatives of financing, but which I would say please consider them because they're very useful. There is a spillover effect from legacy, from other industries, from the general situation. And of course, there is no enough diversity in the funds itself. This is only one small part of the issue. So yeah, that's from me. Any questions?
Oh, thank you so much. I just wanted to kind of add to what you were saying about the VC industry. So I'm part of this program that is called Included VC, which is the new type of initiatives that are there to bring more underrepresented people within the VC space that are not necessarily coming in from the traditional path, whether you came in as a founder or you came in from the financial services industry, especially from a fintech perspective. So I think that there is the same way that we have Girls for Code. I think that if you want to get into the VC industry, there are also other different paths and people who are actually making sure that we have a more diverse pipeline. It's out there, it is becoming more and more. So I really encourage these women who want to get into this space to just kind of look for those programs. And just to talk a little bit more about Yael, I just wanted to go back to you and just maybe talk a little bit more about your association with Women in Block, because you founded Women in Block, I think. And I just wanted to kind of get your impressions and what you've observed through this initiative, because I'm sure that there's a lot that can be learned from that space if women who really want to get into more of the deep tech aspect of things, or even founders who want to be able to get into those hot, new, very technical, maybe very male-dominated spaces.
So there are two reasons why I founded Women in Block. One is from my understanding and experience as an economist. So I have a degree, a master's degree in economics, and also I started a PhD, which is kind of on the break, on a hiatus right now. But my area is basically understanding how we can improve the GDP through participation of women and minorities, because I think there are many losses that we experience as a society, globally, for women not having equal access to industries, especially to higher paying industries. Fintech is one of them, right? So everybody here discussed lack of girls and women in STEM. So that's one thing that needs to be addressed, and that's how women can get into engineering positions and so on, right? And then there's a second area, which is management, and women are, it's well known that women are as capable as managers as men, obviously, and in some cases are more efficient. So and there are many women in the corporate world, and the situation is improving. So why are they not jumping, the ship and going into entrepreneurship? So that's also a longer conversation. So now there are all these new industries that are coming out, right? Like blockchain, like AI, like VR. Give me 1 second. I forgot that my kid has something on Zoom. Yeah. Heroes working from home. So so Dungeons and Dragons on Zoom going over there. So then there's these industries like blockchain, AI, and VR, you know, all these things are coming out every year, and they level the playing field, right? We're all at the same level. And somebody here was discussing how, you know, and a few people actually, speakers and now panelists were talking about how we need to improve our knowledge and expertise and just stay on top of the game, even much more than men, because just we need to jump in there. Like when there's an opportunity, we need to jump in. So every time there's a new industry like blockchain, crypto, this is, you know, everybody's on the same level. You know, it's a new industry that didn't exist 10 years ago. So we're all on the same level. We can gain the same level of expertise, especially people that have been in management. We can cross over, and you know, fintech, you can cross over to blockchain and be at an advantage, right? So women in fintech corporate world can easily jump over to blockchain and crypto and become on top of the field, actually, because there's no, you know, it's very leveled. So I do see an increase of women in the blockchain space. A lot of these women have these kind of marketing companies, sometimes PR companies, mining companies, and so on, which is also great. You know, you jump on the opportunity. You have, let's say, a PR company, and you decide to brand yourself as blockchain or crypto. Is fantastic because you can become the leader in the new industry very quickly. So I saw a lot of women who've done that and very, very successful. And so on top of that, we have basically blockchain, you know, entrepreneurs, right? That we still need to see an increase in. So what else? You asked about why women in block. So women in block was because I went online and I saw a lot of panels, right? Panels with all men, right? So I realized women need a lot more exposure, and they need to be seen in the speaker opportunities and get equal representation, and that way we can help women get more airtime and get more positions, get more jobs, get more sales, and so on. So I created a database of women globally and kind of followed people who spoke, but also followed people who didn't speak and offered to add them to the database. And every time there was a conference and I saw these panels, I would just say, maybe you haven't seen women speakers. Maybe you just need a list. And by the way, here's a list. Choose one, pick one. Their email addresses, just email them and ask them. Because even when I had to go and find women, it wasn't easy to do, right? So now anybody who wants that list, you know, it's available. And we have a website, womeninblog.com. We have social media. So I'll be happy to share that with everybody. And I keep updating it.
Thank you so much. I wanted to just kind of maybe move a little bit more in terms of like the social and cultural norms, and maybe in terms of what women aren't doing and should be doing or improving skills on, and maybe talking more about the gender pay gap. I know that Amani talked a lot about the negotiation aspect, or even in terms of like pay transparency. I want to just ask Natalie, kind of with your experience, have you seen kind of things progress over the years? And if in that case, in terms of the fintech space, how does the fintech space, you know, fare compared to other ICT sectors?
Yeah. So, okay, the gender pay gap is a very, very hot topic, and everybody has an opinion. So I think maybe first take a step back and let's first of all understand, is there a gender pay gap, what that is, and more importantly, why? Okay. Yes, I think there is a gender pay gap. It's something I've seen, but, and this is really, really important, it's not because of a specific bias towards women. It's not a case of, hey, you're a woman, I'm going to pay you less. It's not quite as premeditated as that, okay? So there are several reasons for the gender pay gap, and one of them is unconscious bias. Okay, so if you're a business and you're interviewing two candidates and they tick all of your boxes, you know, it could be that you lean naturally more towards the male candidate rather than the female candidate. And you don't necessarily realize why that is. But that's because culturally, we have been presented with male role models in specific positions, right? When you think of someone in a suit, typically it's a man, not not a female in a female suit, whether it's a skirt or a pantsuit, but it's typically a man, right? And I would also say that certain cultures are much more predisposed to that attitude. They're more traditional. So Yael, judging by her name, she's Israeli. And the Israel entrepreneurial scene, the Israel Fintech scene, I would say is much more open to female participation, female founders than other cultures that I've encountered. It's not necessarily the evil boys club that's consciously exclusive of women. It's just the way things are, okay? And when a woman does come along who is loud, who is proud, who is opinionated, it's very tempting sometimes to call them too dynamic and to call them aggressive, okay? Again, it's not necessarily consciously, it's just the kind of culture that we've all been brought up in. So I do feel that there is a cultural transformation happening. It's been happening for a while, and it's constant and it needs to continue happening, but we're not quite there yet. The reality is we're not going to change it from one day to the next, right? Every single lady who's participated in this event, I would say, is doing her bit to try and actually contribute to that cultural transformation. But it is a thing, right? It's a thing that we're dealing with. I would also like to tackle the idea that Amani addressed, which is that women aren't necessarily asking for what they're worth. I think that's a big part of the gender pay gap. So if I'm a business, I've got two candidates in front of me. One's a man, the other's a woman. You know, sometimes what you'll see is that men are asking for more. So we've all been brought up with the idea of why? Is it because they're worth more, right? So if the men are willing to put in a higher value to the kind of skills and contribution that they can offer, why aren't women? So if we're not asking for more, businesses are in it for money, chances are they will try and attribute a value to a man, which they don't for a woman, right? So it's surprising, but it's true, and it definitely adds to the gender pay gap. I would also talk about how women themselves rate themselves. So we're all multitasking to be here. I mean, we just saw Yael pass something to a child, right? Dungeons and Dragons. So this is very much a reality for us. You know, someone else said it. No one's ever going to ask a man, how do you juggle? I think it was Eva, how do you juggle family and work? But it's the reality of what we have to do. So sometimes it holds women back. It holds women back from taking more senior positions, taking on more responsibility, and also they are seen to be held back, more importantly, by all of these other aspects that they have to deal with that are part of their day-to-day life. So there is a gender pay gap. It's not as simple as I see a woman, I pay her less. It's not quite like that. It's also very much a legacy thing. So women are more risk averse. We talked about it. So they don't change profession and they don't change employers as often. Every time somebody changes a job to a new employer, statistically speaking, they can expect around a 10% salary increase. So if women are more loyal, instead of being rewarded for that loyalty, they're actually almost punished for it because they don't have that salary increase. They don't see what their skills and experience are worth in the market. They just remain a little bit stagnant. They remain safe, right? So that's the gender pay gap. So the question then becomes, how do we combat that, right? Well, the nice thing is that the pandemic has created a catalyst. So with the use of technology, the use of flexible work, we're seeing more and more women realize that, hey, this is something that I can do, right? I can take a leadership role. I can take that promotion. I can work the longer hours that maybe are required to pick up certain skills or to close the gap or to move on to the next level. I'm able to do it at my own my own pace. I can work maybe after putting the kids to bed, that sort of thing. So in terms of the culture needing to change, it does need to change. It's in the process of changing, but we're getting ways where technology, where the current situation is actually facilitating that change. And I think in terms of women, speaking up, dealing with those small day-to-day microaggressions that if you want to succeed, you learn to ignore. The best way to combat those is to actually be better, okay? So that employers recognize that if they want the best person for the job, they will get them, right? And women are in the field, they're playing to win. So I think that's really what I wanted to say about the gender pay gap. There is change happening. It's not going to be as dramatic as people think. I think it's already happening. And every single one of us bear a responsibility to make sure that it happens. And the same goes to founders and entrepreneurs as well. Ask for more, think of ways around the current situation that we find ourselves in. Yael mentioned that she had a male co-founder. Makes sense to me, and don't be tempted to minimize your femininity. I think that's another message that I wanted to pass through in order to sort of meet the, close the gap of the gender pay gap, or in general, the misrepresentation of women in this sector. I think it's more about using what we've got in the best way possible, whether that's helping each other or, using what you've learned in order to progress, using personal relationships, but in a different way. So you might not be able to join the boys club and in exactly the same way, but there are other ways that you can help develop those relationships and use them and move forward. And why not have a women's club as well? It's not about men versus women, though. We find ourselves in this current scenario, in this current culture, and I think a business, it will benefit more if it has contribution from both genders. It really isn't. Feminism shouldn't be about men versus women. That's not it at all, okay? It's about equality, it's about learning to work together, and it's about collaboration more than anything else, but collaboration on an equal level. And we are getting there, but it's about being smart sometimes so that we can work in the current environment in a better way.
Thank you very much, Natalia. In that same spirit, I was just wondering if any of you had kind of like an advice and tips that you would have for women who wants kind of either build their career in the fintech space or aspiring entrepreneurs or already on their entrepreneurial journey to close this panel.
I will start by saying that I wouldn't pay too much attention, to the women-men issues, ratios. Just kind of go forward and be true to yourself. And then when you get to the top, that's when we need to start thinking about these issues, because then women on the top, just like, Sheryl Sandberg was writing in Linen, women on the top should take it upon themselves to bring more women into the space and consciously seek out, invest in women, work with women. In SolidBlock, I think probably 80% of our organization is women. And so, we're trying to give back for sure. So, but until you get to the top, I would say just, being a woman in the space, I would say we're doing a lot. So, and becoming the best and the unicorn. People here in the chat are asking about unicorns. So I would say to entrepreneurs, let's become those unicorns. And then that's probably going to be our biggest achievement as women in the space.
Thank you. Dushika, do you have any advice or tips that you
I just want to say what second everything that I've heard today. I just want to say once again, don't be shy. Being ambitious is positive. Dare to go out there. And also for the gender gap, ask for more. I mean, also when you are fundraising, if it's be ambitious, really go big in your private life and in business life. And just a small anecdote just to end, because lots of ladies need support at home in order to build up their own business. My sister was one of them. She built up very successful private business and sold it. And I'm extremely proud of her. And lots of my friends have their own businesses. And one of them said, I do need support at home, because when I'm home, I want to spend time with my children. I don't want to clean and do everything, but I'm not thinking about it in that way. I'm thinking I'm giving a job to someone. And for me, that all starts in our brains. You know, we have to have different perspective. And I was just sitting there and thinking, that's right. That's actually right. You're giving a job to someone who might otherwise not have it. And this is a good thing for you, for the labor market, and you're building something that is going to employ more people. And for me, this was amazing, you know, to start thinking differently. And I think that one of the things what I wanted today mention many times, I'll just quote again Mr. Ford, who said, like, if you think you cannot, you really cannot. If you think you can, then you can, because it all starts with us. And be bold. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Katerina?
I can only add Natalie and Dusika positioned it very well. I'm very fortunate to work for a company that gender gap is being taken very seriously. We have many women at Credit Suisse at very high positions, and we're constantly working on this. And I can only say that also, as Yale mentioned, let's not think about men against women or vice versa. Just let's work together. And as long as we work together as a team, this is proven to be the best solution, and put ourselves forward. The only challenge that one of the challenges I faced was how to put myself in front. As women, we tend not to. We need to take. We're perfectionists. So unless we have all what is needed to undertake a role with responsibilities, we do not usually take this step. So this is for me what women we need to work on versus men, where it is natural, it's normal to be in a role of responsibilities without having necessarily all the skills that we do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this incredible panel. I think it's time. I think that there were some questions. There was one question that was asked. One was from Yanis on the new, sorry, who was saying that one area where FCA regulated firms in the UK have heavy, wait a second. Okay, no, this is about crypto. It's not about the question. One of the other question that was asked was more about Cyprus. So in terms of what's going on in Cyprus, and if anybody wanted to just kind of delve deeper into what's the situation in Cyprus. Whether we're talking about the gender pay gap, whether we're talking about the fintech and women in that space, so financial services.
I can start us off if you want. So yeah, look, the culture here is a little bit more traditional, I would say, and I definitely see that in more traditional financial services than I do in fintech. Okay, we are definitely getting there, but I think sometimes, speaking back towards unconscious bias, the way to combat unconscious bias is by recognizing it's there, and through education, right? I feel that we still have quite a long way to go when it comes to education, much more so than other geographical locations, other countries. But the nice thing is that we are quite an international society over here and quite an international industry. So I think, although I feel that there is a lot of room to grow in terms of the formal training and recognizing and acknowledging the unconscious bias, I do feel that interaction with more, so when it comes to diversity versus inclusion, I think there's a big difference. You hire for diversity, but when it comes to inclusion, it's giving a voice to what you would potentially consider a minority and making them part of the decision making. So it's two separate things. So we definitely need to do more of that, and we need to do more training against unconscious bias. So I would definitely talk about those two areas for improvement.
Thank you very much. I think it's time for us to close down this panel. I just wanted to say thank you to Eva, Dushika, Natalia, Yael, and Katerina for this very insightful discussion. And thank you as well to Cyprus Fintech Summit and X Valley Technology for putting this together, and have a wonderful evening.